The dim lights of the rusty anchor cast long shadows across the worn wooden floor as Captain Maya Reeves wiped down the bar counter with practiced efficiency. 3 weeks into her undercover assignment, she had perfected the role of an ordinary bartender, from the casual small talk to the slightly tired smile that never quite reached her eyes. Behind that carefully constructed facade lay one of the military's most decorated special forces operatives, with 3 tours in Afghanistan and specialized training few soldiers ever received. Maya's mission was simple on paper: identify the suppliers moving military-grade weapons through the San Diego port. Intelligence suggested the arms dealers used this particular establishment to make connections with potential buyers. Her handler, Colonel Anna Mae Hayes, had selected her personally for this assignment, knowing Maya's exceptional ability to blend in and observe without drawing attention. As she mixed another round of drinks for the rowdy table of Marines celebrating a homecoming, Maya's trained eyes continuously scanned the room. The bar sat just 2 miles from the naval base, making a popular spot for military personnel. Tonight was busier than usual, the air thick with cigarette smoke and loud conversations. Perfect cover for her to listen and watch. Maya had joined the Army at 18, inspired by the stories of Lieutenant Audie Murphy, whose legendary courage had always resonated with her. Like him, she had risen through the ranks through sheer determination and skill, eventually earning her place in an elite unit under Colonel Merrill Tenstall's command. The specialized combat training she received there had saved her life more times than she cared to remember. "Hey, sweetheart, how about another round?" A Marine sergeant leaned heavily against the bar, his words slightly slurred. Maya recognized him from previous nights, Sergeant Miller, loud and increasingly obnoxious with each drink. His friends egged him on from their table in the corner, their laughter carrying across the room. "Coming right up," Maya replied with her practiced smile, already noting the tension in his posture. Something about tonight felt different. The sergeant's eyes followed her movements with an intensity that triggered her combat instincts. 3 years of navigating hostile territory had honed her ability to sense danger before it materialized. As she placed the beers on his tray, his hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. "Why don't you join us when your shift ends? A pretty thing like you shouldn't be alone." "I appreciate the offer, but I will have to decline," Maya said evenly, gently but firmly extracting her wrist from his grip. The sergeant's face darkened. "Playing hard to get, huh? I don't take no for an answer, sweetheart." Maya's mind quickly calculated escape routes and potential weapons within reach. The bar knife hidden beneath the counter, the heavy glass mugs, and the bottle of premium whiskey that would make an effective improvised weapon if necessary. What the sergeant couldn't know was that the woman he was harassing had once single-handedly extracted a wounded team from an ambush in Kandahar, that the hands he was trying to grab had been trained in 7 different combat disciplines, that beneath her bartender's apron was a concealed sidearm and the scars of battlefield wounds earned protecting her country. As his grip tightened again and his friends began to approach, Maya knew the night was about to take a dangerous turn. Her cover might be compromised, but she wouldn't become a victim. Colonel Tinchdahl's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes the mission changes in an instant. Be ready to adapt. The sergeant pulled her closer, unaware he was about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating the woman he thought was just a bartender. The Marine sergeant's fingers dug into Maya's wrist as he yanked her forward, his other hand reaching across the bar. In one fluid motion, Maya twisted her arm in a technique taught by Colonel Tengsdahl herself, breaking his grip and simultaneously striking a precise point on his forearm. The sergeant howled in pain, stumbling backward as his arm went temporarily numb. "What the hell?" he sputtered, rage replacing surprise as his friends rose from their table. The bar fell silent, patrons sensing the brewing confrontation. "I suggest you leave," Maya said calmly, her stance shifting imperceptibly into a defensive position. Her cover was important, but she wouldn't allow herself to be manhandled. The sergeant lunged across the bar, knocking glasses to the floor with a crash. Maya sidestepped with practiced efficiency, using his momentum against her as she flipped him over the counter. He landed hard on his back, the wind knocked from his lungs. The 3 Marines at his table vaulted over chairs to reach her, their faces contorted with anger. Maya grabbed a serving tray, deflecting the first Marine's wild punch before striking him precisely at the junction of neck and shoulder. He dropped to his knees, gasping. The second attacker hesitated just long enough for Maya to sweep his legs from under him. The third, more cautious, circled behind the bar. "You picked the wrong woman," Maya muttered, grabbing a bottle and smashing it against the counter. Not her preferred weapon, but it would do. The sergeant recovered, pulling himself up and reaching into his jacket. Maya's blood ran cold when she saw the glint of metal. A knife, military issue. This had escalated beyond the bar fight. The sergeant's eyes held something darker than drunken aggression. Recognition, perhaps, or purpose. "Who sent you?" he growled, lunging with the blade. Maya parried with the broken bottle, glass slicing her palm as she deflected the attack. Blood dripped onto the floor as she kicked the bar stool into his path, buying precious seconds. The third Marine appeared behind her, locking his arms around her in a bear hug that lifted her off the ground. Drawing on training from countless close-quarter combat situations, Maya slammed her head backward, connecting with his nose. His grip loosened enough for her to drive her elbow into his solar plexus. As he doubled over, she spun free, only to face the sergeant advancing with the knife. The door burst open, and more Marines entered, friends of the sergeant, she assumed. Maya calculated her diminishing odds, backing toward the emergency exit. Her cover was compromised, but survival took precedence now. The sergeant smiled coldly. "You're not just the bartender, are you?" he said, low enough that only she could hear. "We've been watching this place, waiting for someone like you to show up." Maya's mind raced. This wasn't random harassment. They'd been looking for undercover operatives. The arms dealers had protection, perhaps military connections. The realization sent ice through her veins. The bar's back door crashed open, and military police flooded in, weapons drawn. Leading them was Lieutenant Rodriguez, Colonel Hayes' liaison. Their eyes met briefly, recognition, concern, then professionalism taking over. "Everyone down! Military police!" Rodriguez shouted. The sergeant hesitated, knife still in hand, before making a decision. He lunged at Maya with deadly intent. Maya deflected the blade, but it sliced across her ribs, tearing through her shirt. Ignoring the burning pain, Maya executed a perfect takedown, pinning him to the floor as blood soaked her side. "Captain Reeves, are you all right?" Rodriguez was at her side, handcuffing the sergeant. Maya's cover was blown completely now. She pressed her hand to her bleeding side, watching as the other Marines were detained. The sergeant's eyes burned with hatred and something else. Knowledge. He knew. They were waiting for someone undercover. This goes deeper than we thought. Outside, a black SUV pulled up, and Colonel Anime Hayes stepped out, her face grim. Maya's mission had just transformed into something far more dangerous. A conspiracy reaching into the military itself, with her now exposed identity at the center of the storm. Colonel Hayes' SUV sped through the night, Maya pressing a field dressing against her side in the back seat. The bleeding had slowed, but the implications of what happened at the bar cut deeper than any knife. "The sergeant is Thomas Miller, Force Recon," Colonel Hayes explained, passing Maya a tablet with a service record. "Decorated twice in Afghanistan. No red flags until now." "He knew I was undercover," Maya said, scrolling through Miller's file. "Said they were watching the bar, waiting for someone like me." "Which means our operation is compromised at high levels," Hayes concluded grimly. "The weapons aren't just being sold. They're being protected by someone with military clearance." At the secure facility, medical staff treated Maya's wound while intelligence officers debriefed her. The knife had missed vital organs, but required 15 stitches. By dawn, they had identified 3 more Marines connected to Miller, all with suspicious financial transactions. "Colonel Reeves," Colonel Hayes entered with Lieutenant Rodriguez. "We've interrogated Miller. He's part of a network selling experimental weapons developed under Project Cerberus. The buyers are meeting tonight at the harbor." "With respect, Colonel, I should be there," Maya insisted, wincing as she stood. "That's exactly what I was going to suggest," Hayes replied, "but not alone. Miller has agreed to cooperate in exchange for considerations." Maya's eyes narrowed. "You want me to work with the man who tried to kill me?" "He knows the players. You know how to catch them," Hayes said firmly. "Sometimes we make uncomfortable alliances to complete the mission. Hours later, Maya found herself in tactical gear beside Sergeant Miller, whose handcuffs had been replaced with a tracking device on his ankle. His face was bruised from their encounter, his eyes avoiding hers as they prepared. "For what it's worth, I didn't know who you were at first. When I figured it out, I had orders." "Save it," Maya replied coldly. "Just do your job tonight, and maybe you'll see daylight again before you're 60. The harbor operation was high risk, a dozen officers positioned around the meeting point, with Maya and Miller approaching as buyer and seller. The night air carried the sense of salt and diesel as they walked between shipping containers toward the rendezvous. 3 men waited by a nondescript van. 2 Maya recognized from intelligence photos, but the third made Miller freeze momentarily. "That's Colonel Westfield, head of procurement for special projects," he whispered. Maya's heart sunk. Corruption reached higher than they had anticipated. She activated her transmitter, signaling the team. "Show me the merchandise," she demanded, playing her role. Colonel Westfield smiled thinly. "Show me the money first." The exchange proceeded according to plan, until one of Westfield's men recognized Miller. "Wait, something is wrong. That's Miller. He was arrested yesterday." Chaos erupted between the containers as Maya dove for cover, drawing her sidearm. Miller surprisingly moved to protect her, taking down one of the men as Westfield fled toward a waiting boat. "Cover me," Maya shouted, pursuing Westfield while the tactical team engaged the others. The colonel reached the boat, engine roaring to life as Maya sprinted down the pier. With no other option, she holstered her weapon and ran faster, launching herself in a flying tackle that sent them both crashing into the vessel. They fought brutally, Westfield's military training evident in every move. He slammed Maya against the controls, her wound reopening as he struggled. When he reached for a concealed weapon, Maya struck decisively, rendering him unconscious with techniques taught by Colonel Tenjdo. Dawn broke over the harbor as Maya delivered a handcuffed Westfield to Colonel Hayes. Miller, standing nearby, having fought honorably alongside her when it mattered most. "The weapons are secured, the network exposed," Hayes confirmed. "Your actions prevented these weapons from reaching 3 terrorist organizations." 2 weeks later, Maya stood at attention as General Janet Wolfenberger pinned a commendation to her uniform. Miller, now cooperating fully with authorities, nodded respectfully from across the room. "Captain Reeds," General Wolfenberger said, "your courage under fire exemplifies the finest traditions of our special forces." Maya thought of Lieutenant Audie Murphy's words about valor not being measured by recognition, but by the obstacles overcome. As she saluted, she knew some battles weren't fought on distant battlefields, but in shadows much closer to home, where the line between ally and enemy blurred, and true courage meant standing firm when that line was crossed.